Hey, infinite beings, welcome along to the Infinite Me. It's great to have you here. Every day we're talking about being infinite and reminding you that you're already infinite. You don't need to go out and find your infiniteness or awaken to it or even ascend to it, all those things that we always talk about. Your infinite powers are with you right now and you can use them every day. In fact, you probably already are using them every day, and we're here to remind you how you're using those, and let's play with it all. We might as well. So I'm Nat, and over there is Mandy.
Hello.
And we're your infinite wingmates on this journey, and reminding you and supporting you to play in your infinite zone no matter what your reality looks like. And sometimes it doesn't look all that infinite. So if you're watching the replay today, let us know where you're coming from. We love our replay players, watchers. Viewers, listeners, however you're consuming this. So yesterday we chatted about how to tackle the idea of the opinion of others. So everyone seems to have an opinion about you on your consciousness journey, and it seems to get louder and louder as you get more and more conscious. And we realize that it's probably because you're just becoming more conscious of the opinions, and they've probably always been there. But they seem to definitely get louder. So we tackled that topic. So if that's something that you're running into and certainly getting frustrated by, it's very frustrating. It's also very hurtful at times.
Can be.
Can be. So have a listen to that particular session. It was called. What was it called?
You're doing what?
You're doing what? Yeah.
You've got to be kidding us.
That's right. All right. So today we're talking about space.
Not the space for the universe space, but yes.
Yeah, not going for a walk in space. Having space. So waking up to the infinite. The infinite is actually space. So we're going to talk more about that today. All right. Let's dive into the topic of space. So go for it, eh?
I have nothing to say.
Okay. There's an empty space, right?
Space. Yeah, so as we say, we're talking about like the inner space that referring to the as you said, tapping into that infinite space that feeling comes through that we've spoken about before. That the core of that is nothingness. It's nothing and everything at the same time. So that's the space that that's the space you want to be coming from, like to tap into that infinite energy coming through you. You do need to have more inner space so that you can actually feel that sensation coming through your body, so you follow through on it rather than listening to the mind chatter when we fill up our mind with so much stuff takes up space. We've got physical things, obviously, like you've got your physical environment, and if you've got a lot of clutter around you, that can obviously impact your feeling of space in a physical sense, but probably more talking about that mental, emotional space that can be filled up with lots of emotions, lots of past stories that we run, lots of belief patterns that we've bought into over the years.
Yep.
Our opinions, like we spoke about yesterday, so not just opinions that other people have of us. We can hold on to those, and they can definitely take up a lot of space.
Yep.
In our minds, but also our own opinions on things too. We can have very fixed viewpoints on life, or what other people are doing, or what looks like it's happening to us. We hold on to all that things as well. You have opinions about where you're going with your life and what you're doing with your life. So there's so much stuff that can take up space within our brains. Yeah. Even just stuff on our to-do list, like getting caught up in the busyness of life and just that to-do, everything that we think we have to achieve each day, that all takes up everything. All this stuff takes up space in our minds, and it does impact how easily we are able to tap into our intuition and hear that and feel that infinite energy moving through us and actually coming from that space. We're less likely to come from that space when we've got lots of clutter inside us. Yeah.
It's sort of interesting as you're rattling off all the different things that take up space. They're all to do with the outside world. So to me, that means that the true inner space is that infinite space. So when you're in your own lane and you're not concerned about the outside world so much, not that you don't interact with it, obviously, or care about it, but when you're not taking it on board, you've not got particular judgments about it. You've not got, you're not being influenced by it, I guess. You're
Yes.
observing it more
Yes.
and enjoying it more and appreciating it rather than having an opinion about it, and allowing it to influence your actual direction and what you're doing. So yeah, it was just really interesting that I was like, oh, actually it's all to do with the outside world. That's really interesting. And I guess one of them is about your actual surrounds, like even if we can make that a starting point, is your home and your car and your office, if that's where you work or wherever you work. Just that physical space, definitely. Like if you're noticing, I've definitely done this where I've noticed where I have a lot of clutter. Because we're house sitting too, this is a really interesting and different one for us because we're moving around from house to house all the time. And so where there are houses, they're a little bit more cluttered with even just furniture, not having that sort of more spacious type feel to it, or individual rooms.
Yes.
Rather than an open plan. I notice how much that influences me. It's really interesting. So I guess because we are moving around, and so are you, man, as we house sit and stuff, it actually, you can have a different experience all the time. And so this becomes a lot more prevalent in terms of how important it actually is to have space around you without clutter. Because you're having experiences of both, probably more than most people are. But just having everything where it should be, sort of thing, a place for everything type thing. You put your hand on it straight away. Just those sorts of things where you don't have to stop and think about things like, oh, where did I put such and such? Just simple things like that can really actually just clear the mind a lot more, to not have to think. It does become a little bit more autopilot, I guess, for those sorts of things, and that's not a bad thing. Often we talk about, oh, you run your life on autopilot. You might as well use it to your advantage because you're going to be doing it anyway, with your subconscious. So use your subconscious. It's there for a reason. You know, the infinite has put your subconscious there so that it can run on autopilot for many things that you don't have to think about. So I think organizing yourself to use that, even your computer, you know, I'm
files,
always out
emails,
files. Emptying the trash even can feel so freeing at times, like just when you've got so much stuff piled up, or your email trash, and it's like you're not going to go back through it again, just trash it, like get that space. And it does feel like that. It's actually quite amazing, like when you really do tune in, you can get right down to, you know, the minimalism, because that's become a movement now. And
Marie Kondo, isn't it? Marie Kondo, your apartment or something, that lady, that the Japanese lady, she's got a Netflix series now about minimalizing and decluttering and streamlining your house.
It's definitely a big movement. Like I'm 100% all for it. And decluttering is a big thing now. And 𝘎𝙤𝙣𝙚𝙚, if you actually do want to live a minimalistic life, he has an open free blog. You can even use the content on it. He's actually gone so minimalist and unweighted by things. He's actually uncopyrighted all of his material, and he has got shit tons of material on his blog. And you can use it freely. So that's how in the flow free he is. Like, it's just, that must be such a freeing feeling to think, I don't even own the material that's on my blog that I wrote. Like, that's
here to pass it on.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a little bit off topic, but it's pretty amazing. But I guess the whole minimalist movement is a big one. We definitely subscribe to it because we travel all the time. We only have 50-pound bags and a backpack, and that's it. That's all we own in the world. We've got a few items at Jodie's mum and dad's, and that is it. That's just sort of old photo albums and bits and pieces. But other than that, that's all the possessions we have. So if we need to buy something new, we have to take something else away in our bag because we can't fit it in. We've got the weight. So I know that's to the nth degree, and that's not for everybody.
It's not to say you have to do that, but
no, that's right. But that is amazing to how many people go, oh my God, that must be so freeing. Like to just have those few possessions. You don't have to worry about anything else. We don't pay for cars or houses or utilities or none of those things. You know, when all those bills get taken away, amazing how much space gets opened up when you don't have to worry about all those sorts of things. We don't have credit cards, so we don't pay credit card bills. Like, it's quite incredible, really, how much space you can open up and function with. when you really want to push the boundaries. I guess you're the next level. You've got a car, so all you own is sort of in that car and
in the car. Yep.
a few other items. But that's sort of that next level again of minimalist, and it's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it does definitely free up that mental. You don't realize how much mental space your physical things have an influence on you as well until you actually get rid of.
You worry about them too, don't you? Like once you've got them, there's a sense of having to look after them.
Yeah, there is that too. And there's also, I noticed when we decided to sell all of our furniture, we could have put stuff into storage. We tossed around that idea, but it was going to cost us a lot of money to do that. And we had literally had no idea how long we would go house sitting for. So it was like, the furniture's already probably getting on 15 years old anyway. It's probably time to update. You know, fridge is probably not going to last much longer past that anyway. So it's kind of like, well, let's just sell stuff off now and clear that space up. And it wasn't until we did that whole process that you realize the emotional attachment that you have to things and how much space that took up as well. Yeah. So certain things you could sell quite easily because there wasn't really an emotional attachment to them, but there was a certain items. And I had friends that kind of said, "Oh, I don't know, I couldn't do that. I couldn't just get rid of everything." And I said the only thing I really had some sort of feeling around not wanting to sell was our big dining table that we had. Was like a 10-seater wooden dining table, which was a really nice table. We'd had it for years, but it was actually the memories that I had attached to that table. So it was like all the family get-togethers that we'd had with my family, my in-laws' family. A lot of joint Christmases we had together, just like dinner parties with friends. So it was always those memories I had around that table. So it wasn't, I liked the table, but it wasn't, not what was coming up. It was actually the memory attached to that table. So then I had to sort of detach from that and kind of say, well, selling the table doesn't mean I'd lose those memories. Like I still have those memories, so I don't need that table be there to remind me of that. So once I had that awareness, it was like, oh, okay, I can sell the table now. And it was,
you've separated from the table.
Yeah, it was still interesting seeing the table go, out of the house as it was all of the furniture, but it wasn't an emotional thing anymore. It had kind of gone, and the energy was sort of freed from that too. So, but even just like we're talking a lot about physical things here, obviously doing house sitting, we don't have a lot of possessions, but you don't have to go to that degree, like what Nat's saying. I think it's as long as you've got things in your physical space that you actually really love. So like it does still serve to go through the things that you do own and see if you still really like those things. Like, if they're just taking up space and every time you look at them, you sort of think, oh, I really hate that cupboard over in the corner. I wish I didn't have that cupboard. Or you look and you see clutter and you sort of think, oh, I really could use a bit more space in here. Like even if it is like a physical thing, you want to get rid of something so that the walkway is a bit clearer or something like that. Like pay attention to those things.
Clothes, if you've got a whole cycle, like a whole year, you've gone through all 4 seasons and you haven't worn that piece of clothing, then you don't need it.
Yeah. So I've still got some clothes. I'm currently sitting in my husband's childhood bedroom at my in-laws place. So I've got some clothes in the cupboard here that I'd left when we moved, thinking, okay, I'll move them eventually at some point. So for 3 years, I actually haven't used any of those clothes in that cupboard. And just each time we've come up to visit, I just actually literally haven't had time to do anything with them. But I haven't actually. I think I've grabbed 1 or 2 things out of that cupboard in 2 years, like to take 3 years to take down with me to Tasmania. And it's just like, okay, I obviously don't need those. A lot of them are just even outgrown. Like I don't even like the style of them anymore. It's kind of like I've shifted. So it's just, but we hang on to stuff like that, and it does, as much as you might not think about that stuff every day. It's kind of a subconscious thing. You open your cupboard and something part of you in your brain kind of goes, oh, there's clothes. Like even if you're not aware of that thought, that takes up space. So it is that correlation between that too. And the other thing I was just coming up when you were talking before about the exact thing you were talking about, but the thing that's coming up for me was around that balance. We talked about, I think, in the Do What You Love video, I think about 3 days ago, 3 or 4 days, talking about this idea of balance in your life, that work-life balance that gets thrown around a lot. But we were talking more about that concept of that still feels a little bit like an ego thing, that trying to achieve something that you think, what is work-life balance really? But that there is that concept of sometimes doing some of these things that we're talking about, like the decluttering or the keeping your space a bit more tidy, or get rid of things that you don't love anymore, it does calm that ego voice down a little bit by feeling like you've got some balance in your life from some aspect. So whether that is you've cleared out your closets a bit, so you feel better with making decisions about what clothes you're going to wear, like it's a quicker decision, you don't feel weighed down by that.
Yeah.
You pay attention to your physical health a bit more. You put some discipline in around that. So it sort of just calms that ego chatter down. That you don't have to think about those things as much anymore.
Having a morning routine that you go through, like people love those sorts of things. But maybe it doesn't suit you either. You know, I don't have a morning routine.
No, I don't.
And I have tried it many, many times, and it just doesn't work for me. So it was creating more clutter in my head, trying to work out what I should be doing next and fighting that, resisting it, than just going with the flow. So, maybe you'll have more space if you don't have a morning routine.
It have to see what thing suits you, don't you? Just going to turn the light on.
You really do. You have to sort of, I guess, take all of these ideas and possibilities type thing and see how does it fit for you, sort of thing.
Yes. Then the other thing, I suppose, that comes up around the whole space, which we touched on yesterday, not from the context of space, but just opinions of others and how much that takes up room, or opinions from others, and also just your way of thinking that the world has to be for you to show up, you know, so that you feel safe and comfortable. And so all these sort of unconscious things that we put in place so that we maintain our control over our life a bit, we supposedly can maintain control over our space, you know, who we let in, who we don't let in, like how much we open up to this person but not that person, how much we let that person's, you know, opinion influence us, but then we stand up to this person. So we have all these kind of rules, if you like, about how we do life. And so all that stuff takes up mental energy and space in our brain. So we don't realize this is all going on at like this subconscious level, you know, all the time. And it's so fast. It's
exhausting. Like you do feel the weight of it, like the collective weight of it. You don't feel the individual weight of different things, but the collective weight, you definitely feel. Like if you are really feeling run down, and we've talked about it before, that adrenal fatigue and stuff. I think a lot of it can be around that as well, where things are shifting, particularly if you're going on the consciousness journey or the spiritual journey and you're awakening to different things. It's really draining on the body. So having extra space around you becomes more important. Looking after your health becomes a little bit more important. Getting more sleep becomes more important. And I guess the ability to go and have a sleep does essentially come from not having so much clutter. When you've got so much clutter going on in your head or around you type thing, then it's very hard to make the decision to go and have a sleep, because there's too much to already take care of. You don't have the time. But also when you do lie down, then you've got so much going through your head that you're never actually resting as such, like having a proper rest. So
we don't have deep rest. Really, we don't get into the deep relaxation state. Yeah,
so you get more and more drained, more, you know, everything else piling up on top and stuff like that. So I guess it does relate, like in that way, to having more space is enabling you to rest more, so that you can actually rejuvenate properly to go on the next part of your journey and awaken different parts of yourself, because it is a real physical process, the awakening process. You know, your body has to shift and change vibrationally, become less dense. So if we're talking about space, you're actually opening up space in your physical being as well. Your energy is actually shifting and changing to higher vibrational levels. So if you've got a lot of stuff weighing you down, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that and really tiring. So
definitely. And I think that it's that idea that if we don't feel like we've got a lot of inner space, like, and we're saying inner space from that perspective of just feeling like, spaciousness. I suppose if you think about your life, if you feel like you're just constantly on the go, like that your mind just doesn't switch off, then it's pretty fair to say that you don't have a lot of inner space going on. Like it's just, there isn't, you know, the space between your thoughts, if you like there's just no gap between them. And it's really hard to tap into this infinite feeling that we're talking about, coming from and living from that space. It's virtually impossible when your mind is full of crap, to come from that space, because you're not even giving yourself a chance to one, hear the voice, like hear the feel the feeling coming through you. But if you do, you're probably going to dismiss it in like a split second, because your mind just sort of comes in straight away with the, oh, I can't do that, and the logic comes in and the ego takes over, and you kind of just have to give up straight away from, you just don't follow it, because it's just you haven't sort of paid enough attention or given yourself enough time to feel into, like, that's why people meditate, I guess, is like to clear their mind of, there's a reason why people do that, and meditate every day, or just go for a walk in nature every day and just detach, like don't take your phone, don't take your phone with you, don't listen to music, even just like walk and just pay attention to nature and listen to the sounds around you. And so anything that's going to bring you to the present moment, so which doesn't matter what you do to bring yourself to that present moment, it's the gateway to accessing that space within you. There isn't another way that I'm aware of besides coming into the present moment to create space. Like that is the key to doing it. The more that you can do that, the more you bring your awareness back to the present moment. And it will be really hard to do in the beginning if you've never done it before, because your mind wants to tell you that you're doing nothing and you should be doing something else, and you're wasting time and all the things that it will come up with. But it's the only way to create that space, so that you can start to live your life from this infinite way of being, if you like, so that you can hear that voice and act on it, and not, you start to detach from the outside world, like what you started to say in the beginning, that everything that takes up our space does come from that outside finite world. It's not coming from the infinite feeling within us. Like when we tap into that space, we don't pay attention to what's going on outside of us. It's literally all happening within us. But when we are sort of attached to the 3D world and the human form and the ego stuff that wants to go, the chatter going on in our mind, then that's where our energy goes. It's completely outside of us, and we don't have the power anymore, unless we sit in the present moment and start to draw it back in again and connect back into that space.
And I guess over history and stuff, we've got many famous inventors and artists and people that have really revolutionized the world, and when you read their stories time and time again, you realize how much they've spent time on their own, almost being a bit lonely, I guess, in some ways, sort of thing. Like they've almost cut themselves off from the outside world enough. And I don't think you have to do that. I think there's ways to do it without sort of just blocking everyone out and going, I'm not going to see anyone. I think there's a way to deal in the world where you are always maintaining your own space and your own sense of power, that you're not influenced. You're out in the world functioning, but you're certainly not being influenced by those things around you. So the more in your power and the more you're doing what you love and the more sense of self that you have, you can go back into the world and function quite normally, but still have plenty of space around you. But traditionally there has been this sense of needing space, sort of thing, like cutting yourself off from different people and sitting in a darkened room and waiting for inspiration to hit, sort of thing. Like the sense of space and the infinite is your imagination. Like that's actually how it talks to you. So imagination just wasn't for kids. We think that's what it was, type thing, and they can play and lose themselves for hours, and that sense of being lost for hours where time is just passing and you've got no idea, like mum's calling you for dinner, the house could be burning down, sort of thing, but you're still playing your dolls or your trucks or whatever type thing in some imaginary world. That's perfect. Like that's exactly what it is like in the infinite, because there is no outside world. Suddenly it's become something else. Reality doesn't actually exist anymore. It's been turned into another world, and that's to sort of the nth degree of using your imagination, where suddenly a box becomes like a castle, and that's all you see is a castle. You don't see the box anymore. And it's very cool, like to watch kids play. Like if you really want to remember what it's like to have an imagination, sit and watch kids play, because it's just so amazing. And even pets, they have, have all these toys and bits and pieces, but put a box in front of them, you know, like you've just opened up from the mail or something. They're just like in their seventh heaven, you know, jumping in and out and hitting it and all this sort of stuff. It's like they're just like almost using their imagination again, like they're just having fun.
Creativity.
Yeah, creativity comes through, like it's the most simplest of things. And I think if there's anything that I've really learned over the years by becoming a minimalist, it's the most simplest of things. That's just the most enjoyable. Stripping away all the outside stuff that we need to be entertained by these days, and actually just getting back to basics. It's just so much more enjoyable, and you do feel so much more space and so much more infinite. You know, when you sit and just have a simple chat with somebody over a coffee, or just those simple things without, I guess that we've sort of got into a world now where we feel like we have to be entertained constantly. We're always on our phones, we're always watching TV, we're always playing games, like just all this stuff. We just never give ourselves 5 seconds to actually just stop and have a moment of nothingness. You know, yesterday after our conversation, and we talked after our live about different things to do with the infinite me, I was just feeling like, whoa, okay, I can see myself getting really into my head. Like I could feel all the energy raising up into my head. And I was like, okay, I need to stop for a moment. Like, and I just went and laid down for a little bit, like only 20 minutes or so. And I could actually feel myself land again, like come back and be grounded. And I was like, okay, now I can get on with stuff. Like I got straight back up and started working again. I was like, oh, that's probably the first time I've actually really done that, like, and consciously felt really up and really in my head and lots of things cycling through. And I was like, I didn't know where to start with stuff because I had so much to do. And I was like, no, I'm going to just give myself a little moment. And I did. I landed again. I felt myself ground, and I was like, okay, now I know where to start. I'm okay again. Yeah, it was good. Like just that space again allowed it to the next inspired action, because I certainly could have got in there and forced it.
Yeah, definitely.
And it would have been a bloody struggle all afternoon. But yeah, I just gave it a moment, and it became totally inspired, and I got tons and tons of work done. And I think that's the other thing for me is when you actually do give it space and it becomes an inspired action rather than a forced action, you can actually get through so much more work.
Yeah, you're more productive.
You're really ripping through stuff. And it's like you sort of sit back at the end and go, oh my God, I just done tons and tons of work just then. That was ridiculous. But I didn't feel like it was overwhelming. It actually felt like there was a lot of space around it the entire time. And that I was almost just part of the process, but I didn't have to really think about the process because it was just coming through me what to do next, do this, do that, click here, go there. And I was like, oh, that actually was really easy to get through all that work. That's quite amazing. So to me, working with space, you can still be highly productive. It doesn't mean sitting there not doing anything. You actually are very productive. In fact, if anything, you're more productive than when there isn't enough space around you.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. And I think the thing that was coming up as you're talking about what you shared happened yesterday with the feeling the headiness kind of coming up, you know, the ego kind of grabbing onto everything you had to do. You could have quite easily have gone down that line of, oh, I've got so much stuff I've got to do and I've got to get this done now and get into that space. But it's probably just testament to the fact that what we're just saying about the more you spend that time in the awareness of inviting in that space and allowing that space and you know, creating the space and emptying out the stuff that takes up your space, whether that's physical or emotional or mental or relationships that don't serve you anymore. All these things, like you've put in the time and the energy to do that. So it's becoming more natural now where you're aware that when you go into your head and you can bring yourself out of that. But for somebody that hasn't spent a lot of time paying attention to this type of stuff, they probably would have gone into their head and just gone straight down the line of jumping into the to-do list. So it is just it's just a sign that you do have to put in the time and effort. It doesn't happen automatically, unfortunately. Like it does take some time and patience and dedication to sort of pay attention and create that space.
And learning to feel what the difference is. Like
in your body.
Because in your body particularly, like we've talked about before, your body actually is very, very attuned to what's infinite and what's ego or what's not infinite. and you can feel it, like that heaviness or the lightness.
Definitely.
Definitely is a big one. Well, it is in my body. I can feel,
Yeah.
you can feel that weight, and it is literally feeling like a weight. And it's like in that moment, it's pointless trying to push through. Like it, if I can give any advice
Yeah.
over my years, it's like take a break at that point, because it is so not working. It's like either it just needs more space, or you need another element to it that hasn't come through yet. There might be another tip, but there may not be. It might just need a break. Like yesterday, I didn't really get any more tips or tricks of how to do anything. I knew what I had to get on with, but I just needed a break. I just needed to step back from reality for a short moment and go, no, this is my time, sort of thing. Like, okay, this is what I need right now. But there was certainly that weight, that overwhelming feeling, that confused feeling. That was actually probably one of the bigger ones. Was I was feeling confused, and we haven't really talked about confusion, but I really feel that confusion is definitely a big sign. If you're feeling confused, then it needs more space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say that confusion was definitely a ego game that I used to play with myself a lot. So there's various games that we get pulled into, and for some people it shows up as confusion, where I had so many ideas and so many things I could do, and I wanted to do them all, so I just kind of confused myself as to which one I would do first. So I would stay stuck. So that was kind of how my ego would kind of thwart.
That's your usual game.
Yeah, that's how I would stay small, if you like. Like it's everyone has usually, one or two kind of patterns, if you like, that are more prevalent for how you show up in the world. So yours might be really trying to control everything. So you got to have everything in a schedule, and you can't go outside of that. And if someone changes the plan, it really throws you out of whack, and you get really shitty. And so you got to just notice how you got to stand back and sort of start paying attention to, almost like detaching yourself and watching yourself go through a day and seeing what triggers you, like as you go through, because that will really show up what pattern, how you tie up your mental space with stuff, like, and keep yourself small, so that you don't tap into this infinite energy and really thrive in your life. You stay in that survival mode, which is kind of what the ego wants us to stay in, and not get big and know who we are without the ego. So there is that kind of thing as well. And so the confusion for me was definitely a major pattern that I would keep myself in for many years. But it is that keeping myself very cluttered, not with physical stuff, but
with ideas,
mental stuff. Mental thought patterns about how things had to be done, how I needed to show up in the world, or thought I needed to show up around money, around time. So all these concepts that we have been speaking about over the last few weeks, all of that stuff takes up that space, and that was keeping me all confused. So like one thought feeds into the other, and then it overlays with this thought, and then this thought comes in, and they're all like this intertwined bundle of ideas that you just kind of can't feel like you can find a way out of them sometimes, when you don't give yourself the gift of space, if you like, of that presence, of coming to the present moment and really being honest with what's going on. And the other thing that was coming up before, when you're talking about people going away sort of and sitting on a mountaintop for a week or something like that, is just like sometimes you do need to give yourself some physical break from things as well, to really see what's true for you as well. So if this is not something you've done a lot of, like giving yourself the present, tapping into the present moment, and know how to kind of do that quite easily, then it can serve to kind of remove yourself from reality, if you like, for a little short period of time. And that means not going on your phone, not distracting yourself, not watching TV, not talking to people, even, like, just take some time out for yourself to be in your own space with no distractions. Probably out in nature is a really good way, because we all seem to have that natural connection, obviously, to nature as well, and that can be
it's our true self, isn't it? At the end of the day, reflected back. And
you'll have an experience then of what space is like, so maybe you might not even have a reference point to what space is, having
the nothingness.
The other thing was around that confusion was, this happened to me maybe about a year or 18 months ago. I was feeling quite overwhelmed. I'd come back from a trip, which was part of a coaching course that I'd done, and feeling really super inspired from the trip and everything. But I noticed within like a couple of weeks of being back home, I had a really hectic schedule as soon as I got back, and I didn't really allow enough time to sort of integrate back into like a new way of
Right.
being, because I felt like I'd really shifted.
Yeah.
But I just went straight back into my old way
Your
of
old
being.
life.
Yeah, so we had a lot of house sits lined up, and we were changing places, which was not normal for us. We were moving around like a lot in a very short space of time, and I just felt like I had work on the go, and I just felt like I couldn't catch up to stuff. I just felt like I was getting really overwhelmed. I didn't know which direction to go, and I just had this real sense of like, oh, something's got to be going on. This is kind of very exaggerated. I had enough awareness to kind of go, okay, something's coming up for me to see in this. And I didn't quite know what it was, but I was just sitting with there's something here. And then I literally, we've talked about how the universe gives you signs, sometimes quite literal signs. So my husband and I had driven into a car park and parked the car, and then next to us was this van, and on the side of the van, the company name was Inner Space, and it was like a wardrobe company or something like that, or something random. But the words, like Inner Space, and I just went, that's it. Like that's what I don't have at the moment. That's what the outside world is trying to get me to see with all this confusion and overwhelm. Is that I need to create inner space. I don't feel like I have that inner space right now. And as soon as I saw those words, I was just like, okay, that's it. And I actually saw those words. I literally saw the same words like 24 hours later in a completely different context. And I was just like, okay, all right, the universe is giving me very clear signs now, because I asked for it to be shown what it was about. Like that's a very powerful question too, to say, show me like what I need to see right now, and you'll be shown. Like you got to start paying attention. You'll see it, or hear it, or see it in a magazine, or it doesn't matter how it comes to you.
Yeah.
But just having those words, that inner space, I started to just relax a bit. Kind of go, oh, I know how to do this now. Like it was like, okay, I haven't been paying enough attention to creating more presence and being in the present moment each day. Even just giving myself 5 minutes in the morning before I got on and checked my emails or something, just those little things that we just automatically do.
Yeah.
It only takes a few minutes to kind of set up your day, like just to, get out of bed. A good friend of ours, 𝘎𝙤𝙘𝙚𝙀, talks about this, where you get out of, before you even get out of bed, you just turn around, put your feet on the floor and sit on the edge of your bed and just feel the inner, she says, feel the inner field of your body. And so focus on your feet and just feel the energy moving through your feet and through your body, and just start focusing on that. And you don't have to do it for a few minutes, but it's enough to just really bring you into the present day. And it starts to shift how you show up for the rest of your day then, when you start your day that way, rather than quickly picking up your phone and checking your emails, or jumping on Facebook, or attending to the kids straight away. Like just give yourself a space of a couple of minutes and just start with that, and you'll see how much space starts to open up by paying attention.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, if there's any sense of control, it's sort of like starting your day like that with intention of, this is my day. I'm actually going to run my day the way I want to run it. And that, I guess that grounding of like, okay, I'm here, I'm back in reality, because in dream space, you're not actually here. So you've actually come back to reality now. Reality's formed around you again. We've all got solid things again. We're back playing this game now. And it's that sense of, I'm here. And even Jody heard it the other day, sort of thing, particularly if you go traveling, there's a sense of, my name is Jody and I am in Paris right now. Like sometimes you just need to ground yourself that much. And it's, Thursday morning type thing, the 3rd of, August or whatever. It's sort of like, okay, I'm here now and I'm going to play my game, and this is my game and I'm going to play it the way I want to play it. And I think that follows into something that I feel is quite powerful, and I don't do it enough, is actually shutting down windows like Facebook and shutting down emails and stuff. So if you actually are doing some work, or you want to be really present with what you're doing, giving yourself the space just by closing those tabs down, it actually is amazing how much space opens up, because suddenly it's not available to you anymore. It's actually been purposely shut down. And
or turning off the notifications, like on your phone, because a lot of people have notifications turned on, like WhatsApp or Messenger or Facebook. I turn all that stuff off because I was getting so annoyed with the constant like ding ding, and it's just like, I don't need to know who's just posted something on Facebook. Seriously, like if it's important, someone will call me. Like it's like, but it is even that type of thing. It's just like turning off that stuff that just draws your attention away. It draws it out you outside all the time. So anything that draws you outside is stuff to start paying attention to. How can you start cutting that stuff down a bit? Like how can you start helping yourself supporting yourself to step
Supporting
into
yourself, yeah.
that. Yeah,
And taking control back.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that we think we need to do in the day that we don't. Like, obviously there is things that we have to take care of. So if you've got small children or you've got animals, like, there's going to be stuff that comes up, and you can't get by without doing that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of stuff that we let distract us that we don't have to do, that we tell ourselves that we need to do. Like, I was very guilty of doing that kind of thing and making all this stuff important. And you know, it's just like, yeah, really, like, an animal's not going to die if I don't do that thing that I think needs to happen. And it's
in
nothing
the next
to do with
5
their
minutes.
it was nothing to do with their actual safety or their well-being or anything like that. It was just more a sense within myself. I felt like I'd achieved this thing that I put on my list to do, but it actually wasn't important. You know, like, it was kind of keep bringing it back to yourself all the time about what's going to create more space for me, and then also allowing yourself to have that time to sit in the emptiness, the supposed emptiness, you know, to see what's coming through, because you can't hear that. It's really hard to hear that voice when you don't give yourself that space.
It's quiet. It's a quiet, subtle voice, and unless you tune into it, it can become louder. If you tune into it enough, it can become very loud. But at first, when you're really busy, it's very quiet, and so it's very difficult to tune in and get the real message sort of thing, without the ego coming in even over the top of that and trying to interpret what that means as well. Like, and suddenly you're back in ego again. You'd never actually even heard what the real message was, because the ego jumped in way too quickly.
Took a hold of it.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the to-do list idea is using it, and we have talked about this before and touched on it, is like using it as a brain dump. So if you've got tons and tons of stuff going on in your head that you do need to get through, and they are important things, then just put it down on a to-do list. But just be aware that the ego loves that stuff, and it will actually come in and go, oh my God, I've got to do all this in the next 5 minutes. So then suddenly what was supposed to be a freeing exercise of getting stuff out of your head now suddenly has just become even worse, because it's all got to be done in the next 5 minutes. So it is about a brain dump, purely a brain dump, and then just leaving it, like, just let it sit there, even for an hour or 24 hours or whatever, and not even touch it. Just go, I'm going to come back to it when I'm ready, and actually look at that list and actually decide whether any of it is even necessary. Giving it that space again will actually let you step back from it and go, you know, I don't even need to do half those things. Like, I thought I needed to. It was so important.
Or you'll pick the thing that you do actually feel inspired to do in that moment, and you'll get through it a lot quicker, like what Nat was sharing before about you suddenly get through a bunch of things because you're actually inspired to do them. They feel like it's been called in the moment to do those things, or you'll find a much more creative solution to get a bunch of things done because you're tapping into that space and letting the infinite kind of guide you into, oh, wow, look how quickly I got through that thing. So it's playing with it all. So it's so they let us know what you do to get present, what do you do to create space, or do you need to create more space? Like, maybe this has been helpful in pointing out all the things that do take up space for you. In your mind, there's so much stuff,
and then you get some
takes up space.
kisses like this.
Oh, 𝘎𝙤𝙚𝙚. She knows all about creating space, 𝘎𝙤𝙚.
There you go.
Very good channel.
Space queen.
Yes.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's important. It's very important. You want to really play the infinite game. The infinite is space. It's the nothingness.
Yeah,
so
it's
if you
actually
really put that into context.
pretty cool.
It's like, then you really realize how important it actually is, and then you will purposely take time out and clear your space to create more space.
It is actually a critical point of this journey to tap into that infinite feeling. You have to create inner space. There isn't, as I said, I don't know of any other way, because that's what the present moment is. So it's like there isn't another way to tap into that and be that channel for that without creating the space for it. So it does have to become a very deliberate choice that you make
in every moment.
You do have to pay attention to it, because it doesn't just happen naturally. If anything, it's like the ego is trying to do everything in its power to not make you in that space.
To fill that space.
Yeah, so it has to be a very deliberate choice to create the space, and it has to be a practice. It has to be something you attend to you know, every day if you can. That's ideal. Like if you want to really speed up your journey into it, is pay attention to it every day. But even if you can only do it in little bits, it doesn't matter. Like don't dismiss like 2 minutes here and 2 minutes there of focusing on your breathing, or feeling the energy within your body and just feeling the power within you rather than outside of you. Like all those little things, it all adds up. It all starts to awaken these things within you, and it does get easier and easier to stay in that space, or notice when you do go out of the space. It's the other thing too, is that awareness of, like you said, that discernment of when you're not in presence anymore and you're in your head. You start to go, oh, like it's, instead of it taking days, it takes like minutes or seconds sometimes, or even pick up on those things, and you can sort of just course correct and bring your presence back in. Yeah.
Even saying I'm not present right now actually makes you present.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Can be as simple as that. And I've done that tons of times, like particularly when I was really learning what it felt like to be present and with space. Where you're learning that process, it's like, oh, I'm not present right now.
Yes.
Like, bang, okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Can be really helpful. Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. All right, so we're going to give this a bit of space right now and step back and end the broadcast.
Yes. Hopefully you can create some space to listen to this conversation.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it helps.
Yes, definitely. Very cool. Let us know in the comments what you got out of this session, and how you're going to create more space, because it's always about having more space. So everyone could do that exercise, that's for sure. Even we could do that.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments how you're going to create even more space than what you've already got.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. All right, Mandy's running off
up
to dinner to catch up with a good friend of ours.
Yes.
That we haven't seen for a long time, so that'll be fun. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm probably just going to go and lie down. There you go. There's my space. Very cool. All right, we'll catch you tomorrow.
Thanks for joining.
All righty. Bye for now.
Bye. See ya.